Hello and welcome to our video for DMA 30 section 3.4. The book calls this section American Units of Measurement, but you may have also heard these called as the English system of measurement. It's the system that we commonly use here in the United States. And a little bit of trivia, there are only 3 countries that officially use this system still. The U.S. is one of them. The others are Liberia in Africa and Myanmar or Burma. So the rest of the world is going to use the metric system, which we'll talk about earlier, but this is what we use here in the U.S., and we'll learn a little bit more about it now. So in this video, we're going to learn about the different units of length, weight, capacity, and time, and we're also going to talk about how to convert between different units within this system. So let's look at the American or the English units of length. Now it's important to note that you'll have to have all of these conversions memorized. So make sure that you write all these down in your notes, or maybe better yet, use some flashcards so you'll have these memorized for your quiz and for your final exam. So first, the foot, which is the length of a ruler. 1 foot, abbreviated FT, is equal to 12 inches, abbreviated IN. 1 yard, we use yards commonly when you may have seen a yardstick in the past, or we use yards commonly to measure football fields and the like. 1 yard, abbreviated YD, is, excuse the typo, 36 inches. 1 yard is also equal to 3 feet. This is probably the more important of these two conversions to memorize, because if we can get yards to feet, we can always take it back to inches. So 1 yard is 3 feet, and 1 mile is 5,280 feet. And I also placed a little segment of a ruler down here because you will be asked in WebAssign in your homework to measure things using a ruler, and I wanted to discuss how rulers are typically broken up. So this segment from 0 to 1 represents 1 inch. It is not to scale. The longest line in the middle is the ½ inch. Okay, and the second longest lines are the quarters, here and here. So we have 1 quarter, 2 quarters or a half, and then 3 quarters. And then if we go down another level, we'll break things up into the eighths. So 1/8, 2/8 or a quarter, 3/8, 4/8 or a half, 5/8, 6/8 is equal to 3 quarters, 7/8, and then 8/8 would be the whole inch. And sometimes you may even see a ruler broken down even further to 16ths. So this is 1/16, 2/16, 3/16, 4/16, and so on. So if we were asked to measure maybe to here on the ruler, how many 16ths is that? Well, we would start from the beginning. We don't count 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's going to be 13/16 right there. Okay, so that's the different ways that a ruler is broken down. Now let's look at some examples for converting different lengths. We'll start with this first one, convert 9 yards to feet. Now I like to convert with fractions. So I'm going to write this, our known measurement first. We'll write that as 9 yards. And I said we were going to use fractions. How are we going to express a whole as a fraction? Well, we can always write a whole number over 1. Okay, so to convert, we're going to multiply this by the appropriate conversion factor. So we're going to multiply by another fraction. And remember, from our properties of fractions, I can cancel common factors between the top and the bottom of a fraction. Okay, and that's what we're going to do with these units. I want to cancel out yards with yards. Okay, so I'm going to need some number with yards on the bottom. Remember our conversion factors for yards. We know that 1 yard equals 3 feet. Okay, so we're going to express this conversion factor as a fraction. So the 1 yard will go on the bottom, because that will cancel with the yards that we have on top over on the left fraction. And then the 3 feet, the other part of that conversion factor, is going to go on the top. So we'll see here that yards and yards will cancel, and the only unit that we're left with is feet, and that's good because that's how we wanted to express our answer. Okay. So now we'll multiply across the top of this fraction. 9 times 3 is going to be 27. We'll keep that unit feet. And on the bottom we have 1 with no units. And we know that anything divided by 1 is itself, so we'll express this as 27 feet. So we know that 9 yards equals 27 feet. Now let's look at this second example with mixed numbers. There's two different ways to do this. We're going to convert 1.5 feet to inches. Okay, so remember our conversion factor? We know that 1 foot equals 12 inches. Great. Now we need to express this mixed number as an improper fraction. Okay, remember we're going to multiply 1 times 2 and then add the 1 over here, so we'll get this is equal to 3 halves. Okay, so the 3's on the top of our fraction, the 2's on the bottom, but we want to make sure our original unit, the feet, is going to stay on top. Okay, so 1.5 feet is the same as 3 halves feet, but make sure that you keep that unit for feet on top. And we're going to multiply this by our conversion factor as a fraction. The 1 foot needs to go on the bottom. Okay, so it cancels with the feet on the top. And we pair that 1 foot with the 12 inches. Alright, great. Now we multiply across the top. 3 times 12 is going to be 36 inches. And then we multiply across the bottom. 2 times 1 is 2 with no unit. And then we'll finish off that division. 36 divided by 2 is going to be 18 inches. Now the second way to do this would be to convert the mixed number to a decimal. 1/2 is the same as 1.5. If you didn't know what a half was as a fraction, you could always do 1 divided by 2 by your calculator. You would get 0.5, and that's the decimal part, and then you add the wholes, the 1 to the to it, so we get 1.5 feet over 1 times the conversion factor. 1 foot on the bottom, 12 inches on the top. Feet and feet will cancel. And then we'll multiply. 1.5 times 12 is 18 inches. And then multiply across the bottom. 1 times 1 is 1. So again we get 18 inches. And the way that you do these calculations is up to your personal preference. You can either convert it to a mixed number, or excuse me, an improper fraction, or a decimal, whichever you prefer. Just remember that if you ever get a repeating decimal, a 0.333, a 0.666, something like that, WebAssign won't take that. It needs to be an exact answer, so you'll have to convert those repeating fractions to an improper fraction to be able to enter it in WebAssign. Next, let's look at our units of weight. The first is a pound. 1 pound, abbreviated LB, equals 16 ounces. And the second, 1 ton, abbreviated capital T, is equal to 2,000 pounds. Okay? Only 2 units that you have to memorize for weight, but make sure that you get those down in your notes or as flashcards. Now, let's look at an example. We'll convert 60 pounds to ounces. So we'll start with our given 60 pounds. We're going to write that over 1 again, because it's a whole number, times our conversion factor. We're going to use this conversion factor here. 1 pound is equal to 16 ounces. Remember, the pounds have to cancel with pounds, so the 1 pound goes on the bottom, and then the 16 ounces goes on top. We'll multiply across the top. 60 times 16 is equal to 960 ounces over 1 times 1 is 1, so this is equal to 960 ounces. And that's going to be our final answer. Now let's look at the units of capacity. You may have heard capacity or volume is another way that we can say that. That's the amount of space something takes up. So think about filling up a container with a liquid or a sand, something like that. That's what we mean when we refer to capacity. So 1 cup, C, is 8 fluid ounces, abbreviated fluid, FLOZ for ounces. 1 pint is 2 cups. 1 quart is 2 pints. And 1 gallon is 4 quarts. Now you will have to have all of those memorized, so make sure you have them down somewhere. But I'm going to show you a trick for how to remember all these different capacity conversions for the English system. And it's called the big G. So on your paper, you start by drawing a big G to represent gallon. In that G, you draw 4 quarts. 4 Q's, because there's 4 quarts in 1 gallon. In each quart, you draw 2 P's, because there's 2 pints in each quart. And in each pint, you need to draw 2 C's, because there's 2 cups in a pint. So this is something that you can jot down on your quiz paper or your exam paper to help with capacity conversions. And let's see how it works. Say if I wanted to go from cups to quarts. How many cups are in a quart? Well, within one of these Q's, let's count how many cups there are. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I would get the conversion factor 1 quart equals 4 cups. What if I needed to know how many pints are in a gallon? Let's find out. Within the whole gallon, I'll count how many pints there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 pints in 1 gallon. And you can use that to find any conversion within the American system for capacity, and just remember that first one. 1 cup is 8 fluid ounces, and you'll be good to go. Now let's do an example. We need to convert 2.5 pints to fluid ounces. We're going to need 2 conversion factors for this. We need to go from pints to cups first, so 1 pint is equal to 2 cups. And then once we're in cups, we're going to have to take this to ounces. We know that 1 cup is 8 fluid ounces. Alright, so this is going to be a 2-step problem. Let's start with our given 2.5 pints over 1 times our first conversion factor. We don't have a way to go straight from pints to ounces, so we're going to have an intermediate step where we take it from pints to cups, because once we have it in cups, we can go from cups to ounces because we have a conversion factor for that. So we know we need to cancel those pints on the bottom, okay, and we have a conversion factor that takes us to cups. 1 pint is 2 cups, and those will cancel. Now, this will convert to cups, but we have to take it to ounces. We have a second conversion factor that goes from cups to fluid ounces. We know that 1 cup is 8 ounces. Cups and cups will cancel, and then we're left with ounces, which is our desired unit. Now, we'll multiply across the top. 2.5 times 2 times 8. We get 40 ounces over 1 times 1 times 1 is 1 on the bottom. So our final measurement is going to be 40 ounces. So keep in mind, if you don't have a direct conversion, like here where we had pints to ounces, we'll have to take it to an in-between unit, okay, so we can go from one to get to our desired unit at the end. Last but not least, we have our unit of time. This is the one thing that stays the same between the metric system and the English system of measurement, but we'll introduce it now. The first conversion that you'll need to have memorized is 1 minute is 60 seconds, then 1 hour is 60 minutes, and then 1 day is 24 hours. There's a couple extra common measurements that we might want to keep in mind too. 1 week is 7 days, and on average 1 year is 365 days. These may come up in your homework, so it'll be good to know them too. Let's jump into this example. We've got an application problem. A solar eclipse can last as long as 450 seconds. Express this time in minutes. So we'll start with our given 450 seconds over 1 times a conversion factor that will cancel with seconds on the bottom. Okay, we're going to use this one right here. 1 minute is 60 seconds. So we have the 60 seconds on the bottom and the 1 minute on the top. Seconds and seconds will cancel. We're left with minutes, which is our desired unit. We multiply across the top. 450 times 1 is 450 minutes. Divided by 1 times 60 is 60. And then we'll do that division. 450 divided by 60 is 7.5 minutes. Okay, so to review, in section 3.3 we talked about the American or English system of measurements. We talked about the different units for length, weight, capacity, and time, and how to convert within each of those different units. Next time, in section 3.4, we're going to talk about the metric system and how to convert in that. We'll see you next time.